Hey everyone, did you know that you can calculate the cost of college with our college cost calculator? First, you'll fill out some basic financial information, and our calculator will provide a personalized estimate for your expected family contribution, or how much you'd be expected to pay per year. In our Hub tool, you can then see your predicted cost at a specific school. Visit the link in the description below to sign up and estimate your cost of college today.
So now we're going to come to the main section of the live stream, probably, which is the parent financial section. So in terms of the parent financials, the first thing they're going to ask is whether your parent has completed their IRS income tax return or another tax return. And from there, you're able to enter in the status. So let's say your parent has already completed their IRS tax return. You're going to look at what type of tax return they formed. For the majority of you, it's going to be an IRS 1040 form. And then what is the tax filing status according to the parent's tax return. So we go from there. All right. Now, one thing that's important to keep in mind is that you can actually use the IRS data retrieval tool to just pull in a lot of the data you need to fill out the FAFSA in order to make it go faster. So you can actually click link to the IRS, and then what you need to do is you need to enter in the parent's FSA ID username and password. And then go from there with your federal student aid ID. In this case, I'm going to skip it so I can actually just walk through all the data fields that it pulls in. But you can definitely use that. I encourage you to use it as long as you have access to your FSA ID. So the first thing that you're going to look at is the adjusted gross income for 2019. This is line 8B on the form 1040. So this is basically just your standard AGI. So we'll just enter in a number hypothetically, right? Then from there, we're going to add in how much was earned from working. Let's just say it's the same number for ease's sake. That's really just going to depend. Right. This next up, we'll have the amount of income tax that was paid. Let's say this was $25,000. It's fine. And then they're going to ask about some special situations. So that was the pay, and then they're going to ask about some special financial situations. So first up, if one of your parents is in the military, right? If you get combat pay or special combat pay, this needs to be added in as long as it's added in the mother's or the parent's adjusted gross income. Then any student, college grant, or scholarship money reported to the IRS in the parent's income also needs to be reported. If the parent has received a American Opportunity Tax Credit or Lifetime Learning Tax Credit from IRS Form 1040, that's going to also be reported in here. Any untaxed portions of IRA distributions or pension distributions from IRS Forms 1040, that's going to be layered in here. Any IRA deductions and payments to self-employed simple, basically retirement plans, that's going to be layered in here as well. And then any tax-exempt interest income that's earned also needs to be added in. Now, I think for the vast majority of you, these are not going to be common cases that you'll be looking at. But if you do sort of look at these, that's definitely something to kind of consider. All right, now before we move forward, I do want to mention that we do have an upcoming event this Thursday, which is a live walkthrough of the CSS profile. And so like the FAFSA, the CSS profile, like I said, is another financial aid sort of form that you have to fill out, especially at many private colleges, right? And so you want to basically, if you want to get kind of a similar walkthrough to the CSS profile, definitely feel free to check out that event. All right, so I'll send over the link to that in a second. So basically the parent, you look for these special financial situations, and then you're going to move into some of the other financial items. So the first is any child support paid by your mother as a result of divorce or separation. And this does not include support for children in your households. It's really just for children that are, that the other person has custody of, basically, right? All right, and then if your parent had any earnings from work under a cooperative education program offered by college, or any taxable earnings from need-based employment programs such as federal work study or need-based employment portions of fellowships and assistantships. So again, all pretty straightforward. Basically, if you have any special financial circumstances, this is where kind of that gets looked at. Okay. And for those of you asking in the chat if this video is being recorded, yes, it is. And if your parent hasn't had a chance to fill out their taxes, then obviously, for the most part, this information won't be there. You will be required to put in a sort of financial situation if your parent didn't file taxes. And we can kind of circle back to what that looks like in a second. Now, there are some additional things that they look at. Again, there's a lot of specific financial circumstances that FAFSA is going to look at. So first is if you received any child support. And so if your parents are divorced, this definitely will often happen. Any housing or food or living allowances for members of the military, clergy, such as cash payments or the cash value of benefits. Does not include the value of on-base military housing or a basic military allowance for housing. If you made any payments to tax-deferred retirement or pension savings plans, either paid or direct, either if you're paid it or you made it out of your own pocket, or if it was withheld from your earnings, you do need to report those. Any veterans non-education benefits such as disability, death, pension, or again, this is if your parents are veterans, and then any other untaxed income not reported such as workers' comp or disability benefits. So there's a lot of financial situations that are being taken into account. Next up, they're going to ask about your parents' assets. And so for context, as of today, does the total amount of your parents' assets exceed $600? If it's below $600, you don't have to do anything. If it's above, then you do have to fill this out. The first thing they're going to look at is your total balance of cash, savings, and checkings accounts, okay? Now, you want to be careful because there are a lot of different accounts that are included in here. In particular, basically, so for the cash, savings, and checkings accounts, this is pretty straightforward. This is just any, again, cash accounts, checkings accounts, or savings accounts. And then they're going to ask about investments. So investments includes everything except for your primary residence. So it includes your investment accounts, brokerage accounts, mutual funds, all that stuff. But it also critically includes the 529 plans. The 529 plans are treated as a parent investment. And it's very important that you put them into that value. Because if you put them into the value of the student financials, it's going to get assessed at a much higher rate. Student income and student assets are assessed at a higher rate than parent income and parent assets. Parent assets are assessed at a 5% rate, whereas student assets are assessed at a 20% rate. So make sure you put the 529 plan here in this section under parent information. Next question is, as of today, what's the net worth of your parents' current businesses or investment farms? Now, businesses and or investment or farms, right? If there's a family farm or small business that you own with fewer than 100 employees or employee equivalents, it's not considered on the FAFSA. These size businesses are considered on the CSS profile, so you definitely need to know that information, but you don't need to know it for the FAFSA. So just go ahead and answer some basic numbers. We'll go from there. And then you're going to go into student finances. But before we do that, I do want to just quickly cover the case where both parents are married to make sure that we're seeing both sides of the equation. So the first thing that you're going to look at is you got to go back to parent demographics, and we're going to really quickly grab this. We'll hit married, and then we'll kind of show that off from there. So this is go through from there. And then now if your parents are married, you're going to have to enter information for both parents. So we'll do Sina, Carl. And then you'll go through from there. And then you'll have to enter information for your other parent. So in this case, it's the mother that's being entered in for here. And then they want to know if your parents have lived in Massachusetts for at least 5 years. You can kind of enter that carefully, add that in there, and then enter in how many college students. All of that stuff is going to remain the same. Now, the key difference is the parent financial are going to depend a little bit on how your parents file their taxes. So if it's single, you're going to have to enter information for both of them. If it's married filing jointly or married filing separate, you're going to have to enter in information just for one. I'm not going to link the IRS again. And then that's what that looks like. But if your parents are filing separately, then they're going to ask for both parents' information, right? So we'll go from there. So the parents' adjusted gross income, that's a combination. Like I said, there's an income estimator that you can use if you don't have the exact IRS form, right? And then when you have both your parents married, they're going to ask for each parent's information separately. So you'll go through from there. Parents' income tax. And then they'll ask these questions again, but for both parents. So you need to just answer the information for both parents, make sure that that's all taken care of. And then you enter the asset information again, and then go through from there.